Hey guys, and welcome to the very first of the NitroGen podcasts. Well, we may as well call it the NitroGen YouTube video. This is the very first one that we're going to be doing, and I'm delighted to say that I've got two men on the phone with me at this moment in time, the wee hours of Tuesday morning. Das Acton Kid, Brian Bradshaw, as always, my co-host for the NitroGen podcast, and I've also got a very special guest, Mr. Gary McDonald. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm all right. Thank you very much for having me on.
Hey, you're very welcome, mate. Obviously, there's a little bit of history between me and Gary. I've known him for a good number of years. He's been a good wrestling buddy to me, amongst other things, with football and everything like that. It's good to actually be able to do something like this with you, with all this lockdown restrictions and everything like that that's going on. It's a crazy time at the moment, but, you know, we always find a way, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. You've always got to keep sort of going, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, we've got Das Acton Kid over there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you weren't going to ask me how I'm doing.
Yeah, of course I'm going to ask how you're doing, mate.
Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. So obviously, we've been talking about this on the podcast for quite a while. We wanted to do this probably like 2 months ago, actually. Yeah, it's been difficult, but we have wanted to do this for quite a while. Obviously, now we've finally got the opportunity because something massive happened last week, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about it. Gary has a podcast himself. If you'd like to have a moment to talk about that, Gary.
Yeah, it's called the Ched and Kerry Wrestling Podcast. We could be found on Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, all the good places. I think we're coming to Twitch from January as well. So yeah, if you're interested in AEW and more news about that, go ahead and give us a subscribe where you can find us.
Now, the reason why I say that is obviously because Gary watches AEW on a weekly basis and obviously constructs his podcast with Jed as well. And they do a really good job. I really, really enjoy it. But that's one of the main reasons why I wanted Gary to be on this podcast, on this video, because of his knowledge of AEW and the way things have been going in AEW for the past, you know, however long it's been since you started watching it. I'm going to presume, being the avid wrestling fan that you were and currently are, I presume that you've seen more or less every element of AEW.
Yeah, pretty much everything, every episode that's been on TV, I've seen, pay-per-views, and most episodes of Dark, and my favorite half an hour a week of wrestling-related product, the BTE on YouTube, being the elite sort of 30 minutes sort of like comedy skits that Young Bucks put together. Yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it.
Excellent. What about you, Brian? I mean, we obviously we've talked on the podcast about certain AEW things and everything like that. But how often do you tune in? When do you tune in? Do you do it through ITV? Do you download it or?
Unfortunately, I actually fell off the AEW wagon earlier this year. Not back for any specific reason. Because I was watching week to week. I'm watching it through the ITV app, and I found it a very compelling product. But I got very jaded with wrestling around about WrestleMania time. Obviously, there were a lot of shit happening around then. There were certain things that I were even frustrated with AEW with, a little less controversial than WWE. I will say that like the lack of proper promotion of the women's roster, just for me, like as much as I love tag team wrestling, there was just too much of it, and it was just kind of like, yeah, WWE's not putting on a compelling product at all for me. And then you've got AEW who put in £10 of shit in a £5 bag. And that could be a good thing. That could be a good thing. But I was quoting Stone Cold Steve Austin with that one, by the way.
That's it. I've actually never heard that before.
Yes. But yeah, it don't get me wrong. It can be great for certain people. Certain people can sit down and really, really enjoy that. For me, it's like if I see 2-3 tag team matches a night, you know, I'm pretty much set after that. I like a variety. This is the thing that I loved WWE for in the late 90s. This is something that I love TNA for. right through to around about 2009, 2010, where they really started dropping off a little bit. I like variety in my wrestling, and I don't need to watch the same thing every week or the same thing several times throughout a night. And I that's basically it. I just got jaded with that. And don't get me wrong, I do keep tabs of AEW. I've watched a couple of episodes of Dynamite since then, but I don't know. There's something that's really preventing me from tuning in. I can't really put my finger on as to why. What that is, but yeah, I suppose it's kind of like a lack of trust in pro wrestling in general.
Yeah, I mean, we had a conversation, didn't we? I'm not entirely sure that we were meant to have this conversation, but we had a conversation on Twitter maybe last week or the week before about so fans, internet wrestling fans that are very vehement about what they like and very pushy about, our company's the best, and it's just fandom, fanboyism or whatever you want to call it.
Stan culture.
That's one of the new terms for it. Yeah. And I recall saying to you that when I sort of, left the car that was the professional wrestling business, when the second incarnation of the main event mafia came around, when Sting was in there, and the main reason why I was watching TNA at that point is because Sting was in there, and I stopped watching wrestling altogether. Part of the reason, one of the main reasons, is simply because of the people on the internet that are just so like, you watch AEW. Are you a fucking delinquent? That sort. Are you retarded, man? Like, really? Come on now.
Yeah, I mean,
we all like what we like. What's the need to be like that? And that just just sent me out of it. Like, I was just like, why do I still have these conversations? Why do I still partake in all this? Like, and the whole thing, I just took a step back and I thought, fucking hell, I actually feel better for not being involved in any of it.
Yeah. I mean, you've been very vocal about your distaste of WWE. I've been very vocal about it as well. Now, I may go on Twitter and say, look, I can't understand why anybody would support this company. And I'm not saying because of the wrestling itself, it's because of their business practices. But I'm not actually going around telling people, oh, yeah, you're a fucking idiot for supporting this company. You shouldn't support this company. It's like, it's not that. If you enjoy that, that product, and you can turn a blind eye to their business practices, then more power to you. I did that for 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years of my life. I was still tuning in one way or another. I mean, last year was when I really started to dip off WWE. I was watching the pay-per-views, but I wasn't really watching the weekly products, because I found that the pay-per-views at the time were consistently good. And yeah, and if someone said to me, "Oh yeah, Raw's really good," and all like, you should tune into Raw, I'll be like, it's the same as what I were when I'm watching TNA, and people were saying like, "Oh yeah, TNA sucks. It's just WCW 2.0. You're a fucking idiot if you watch them. It's just full of ex-WWE people." It's like, you like what you like. I'm not an idiot for watching something. I can acknowledge the problems that they have, but I'm not wrong for watching it. I don't think people are wrong for watching WWE. What I will say though is that if you watch a product, just keep in mind that, yeah, they might have a compelling product or they might be entertaining you specifically, but that does not make them perfect. No. And I think this is why this conversation that we're having now, what the topic at hand is something that we really need to discuss, because we're seeing the same thing with, and not just AEW fans, we're not really targeting AEW fans, but we see it with AEW fans, we see it with WWE fans week in, week out, and it's just, I mean, it's just so lame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that does annoy me as a self-confessed AEW fan, but I watch NXT as well because I like both products, and I feel like I'm allowed to do that as a wrestling fan. It helps everyone, doesn't it, if both companies are doing well?
Yeah.
But the one thing that does annoy me is the fact that whenever the ratings are announced, it's like tribal warfare.
Yeah.
Like, people are calling each other names and for no reason, just because, like a couple of weeks ago, NXT won by like 2,000 viewers, and they were acting like it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And then, like last week, it was 300,000 plus, mainly because of the things that we're going to discuss in a few minutes for AEW. And the AEW fans went back at the NXT fans, and it's like, why do you even care about that stuff? It's irrelevant to us and our enjoyment of the show. What has it got to do with anything?
And it's irrelevant to the companies as well. That I'd say less so on NXT side. They're probably more. They definitely put NXT on USA on Wednesdays to counteract AEW.
Without
so
question.
There's probably there's probably still that little bit of mentality in Vince's mind that oh, we have to win this tonight, we have to win this, but he's also been through all of that. He's probably never going to change his behavior. It's just rooted in his personality. But you don't see Triple H going out and saying like, "Oh, we need to beat AEW this night." He's always complimentary of their products, and it's the same with Tony Khan. Tony Khan does say some really silly things, but he's more about like, we want to break the 1 million rating mark week in, week out. He's not turning around and saying we have to do that because we want to beat NXT. He's not like that at all. He's super defensive of his products, and you know what? I can understand it to an extent. But he's not getting into the tribal warfare. And this is the thing. NXT, Triple H, AEW, Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, they're not buying into something that the fans are seemingly pushing week in, week out. They're not interested in that. They just want to do as good as they possibly can individually.
Khan didn't help himself, did he? Was it last week or the week before by tweeting the NXT rating numbers?
Yeah, he has gotten into it recently, I'd say so. But I think I'm not so sure if that is him just actually really getting involved in it as much as just trying to fucking bite back at the NXT fans that are probably tweeting at him, just saying like, our product is better no matter what ratings you get. Because I see that a lot as well. So it's probably more reactionary, and I kind of get it, and he needs to curb it. But I don't believe for 1 minute that he actually really cares all that much at the same time. I just think he wants what we want. We want the fans to simmer down a little bit. It's not important.
I mean, the optimist in
if you're
me.
Gonna fight it,
go on, Brian. Sorry.
No, if you're gonna fucking keep biting at me, keep saying like, oh yeah, you may be winning the ratings, but our product's superior, then of course he's going to bite back at some point. He's probably just getting annoyed with it. Like, it's not what he's about. He's shown that that's not what he's about. He may have tweeted that, but I don't believe that's what he's aiming for. He's just aiming to shut the fans up a little bit.
The optimist in me kind of makes me think that he's using a little bit of marketing in his brain as well. He's trying to keep AEW. Obviously, if you get the AEW diehards constantly talking about AEW on Twitter, you're generating a buzzword and you're keeping, AEW trending on Twitter. And if you could do that for days on end, it benefits everybody that's associated with AEW. The fans get a little bit of a hard on about it because they've got to rage about their favorite company and the favorite wrestlers. Tony Khan's obviously happy because his company's in the spotlight on a constant basis if he's trending on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And obviously, again, with it being a buzzword, if that that just constantly comes up in news feeds, and if you can get more eyes to watch the product simply because people are arguing about and he's instigating it by putting things like that out. And I mean, again, like I said, this is the optimist in me. I'd like to think that he's doing it with something in mind and not just we beat NXT. So yeah. I mean, I agree with you, Brian. I do.
I think everything that's happened ever since NXT and AEW have gone head to head. Not like saying that's the intention, by the way. I mean, I'll repeat that. I don't think it's the intention, but ever since they've gone head to head and we've had this tribal warfare, the positive side to it, because I don't like to be constantly negative about things. The positive side to it is that it's shown that wrestling fans as a whole, as a community, as a whole, whatever you want to call them, they want something better. They do want the competition. I think the competition is a bit silly. You know, how they react to that competition is very fucking weird. You know, it's gatekeeping, but it's something that they want. They want companies to bounce off each other and challenge each other and, you know, do better. The thing is, though, it's not illegal to like more than one product. You can like AEW and NXT, and you could decide to tune into NXT one week and tune into AEW the other week.
Yeah,
you're not wrong by doing that, guys. You don't need to feel like you have to side with a company. It's not the 90s anymore. It's, you know, companies aren't really on the line. AEW will just keep on going and going and going because they've got the financial means to do it. To do so, the Khan family are richer than the McMahon family. They're going to keep going through hell or high water.
I think you were right the first time with Mad Mac.
Yeah, if they get dropped by TNT, which I don't see happening anytime soon, if they get dropped by TNT, they'll find another network. They'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know, NXT, they're owned by WWE. You know, if USA turn around and say, "Oh yeah, the ratings aren't up to much," they'll put them on a different night, or they'll put them on a different, you know, or they'll drop them and they'll end up back on the network again. There's no reason for this gatekeeping at all. There's no legit reason. No company is going out of business. There's not anything on the line really. There's not. It's just two different brands wanting individual success. And you can enjoy both, or you can enjoy one and not enjoy the other. That's fine. But to start attacking the fans of the other side, or, you know, or what have you, you just come across as children. You come across like children. And a lot of these people are in their fucking 30s as well.
Yeah.
And that's disappointing. That's what's disappointing. You know, the rating war is fake.
Yeah. I think it's actually a hangover from the old Raw versus Nitro stuff.
Yeah.
From the late 90s. And again, like you say, we're the generation where that is most prevalent, isn't it? We're all like around 30 years old, give or take, right? And we all know what it was like back then for that sort of stuff. We may not have known it as well as we do now looking back, but we were aware, right? Even going to school, people were talking about the wrestling the next day, and that's happening again. And like when you go into work, so competition's breeding success, really, and that's all that really matters, isn't it?
Exactly my point.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like you were saying, it's the 30-year-olds, you know. And the thing is as well, we learned our lesson when WCW closed a few years after, and everybody maturely. Well, I'd say everybody, but I know for a fact that you know, the three people that are in this video right now, we all realized that once WCW went, the quality in WWE just went absolutely in the toilet because they had no competition whatsoever. We quickly realized, we quickly realized that competition breeds, you know, good. It breeds success. If there's no competition and you've monopolized the entire business, you don't need to try because you've got everything. So you can just churn out a load of shit. So for, like you said, for people in their 30s to suddenly disregard that again and pick a side and think, I'm gonna vehemently defend my brand. These are my brand. You know, come on now, for fuck's sake.
The companies don't care for the individual fan. They just don't. They want you to buy. They want you to buy their products.
That was going to be my next point. That's what I was going to say, because
they're not going to come round to your house, knock on your door, give you a pat on the head and a cookie. They're not. They don't need you to defend them like that.
No,
they just want you to.
Yeah, they want you to tune in and buy their t-shirts.
Yep, the definition of a mark, and take that from somebody called Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, the only, and I did put this on Twitter the other day. I said the only company that has actually ever cared about that one person was TNA.
Oh yeah, definitely, because
when they
had
came
to
over
fight
here,
for it.
it was unbelievable. When they came over here, I'm not going to say you were treated like royalty. Me and Gary went to one of the meet and greets and everything like that, and we met Sting, who we're going to start talking about in a minute. And yeah, it wasn't, there was no red carpet or anything like that. We were kind of like boxed in and stuff. But I've been to events, private events and stuff like that, because we were running a TNA website. We were invited to private events. That's where I met. Brian's going to love this. That's where I met BG James and Kip James, and obviously, yeah. So, Nick Aldis with her. Johnny Moss. There was Steve. I forgot his name now. He was a promoter in UK. Steve, I forgot his name now. And obviously Borash with her as well. And yeah, they bought us all a beer and everything like that. And they were just like, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. We really appreciate it, because you're helping us. You're helping the brand grow in the country. And it was at that point, I spoke to Borash, and Borash was saying that Dixie, if she could, would have moved the company to the UK. She said that she wanted, and Bischoff has said this on his last podcast, that she wanted the program Impact to be more British. It wanted it to appeal to the British audience almost more than the American audience, because they were more successful over here.
I mean, at one point over here, they were on free TV. Granted, I know that's a big deal. That is a big deal. They were on free TV, but they weren't on ITV. They weren't on Channel 4. They weren't on BBC here. They were on Challenge TV.
Yeah.
Which is buried in the channels on Sky. It was buried in the channels on Freeview. You could easily skip past it without blinking an eye. And they were on there every single week, beating Raw, which was on Sky. You take in the fact that Sky is paid TV. We get it. That does affect it. But at the end of the day, they were on a no-name channel. They were just on a channel that's dedicated to fucking game shows, and they were not even live either. And their ratings were better than Raw and SmackDown every single week.
Yeah. I mean,
TNA were never more successful than they were in the UK.
On this TNA website, that's one of the main things that we used to do every week, was we'd do the ratings roundup from baib.co.uk. And I went through them all today, actually, because, again, like I said, I was listening to the Bischoff podcast, and they dedicated 4 to 5 minutes to talking about the British audience and, what was happening, because Meltzer had said that Impact was moving to a Sky channel, which was completely wrong. He's fucked that up, just like he fucks a lot of things up. So I went through them, and I went through the ratings, and it was something like 60% Impact won. The most successful WWE television product was SmackDown. It wasn't Raw, it was SmackDown. And I think, again, you see that over here. NXT is probably the most popular brand over here, over Raw and SmackDown.
Because it's on free TV, which helps.
I mean, it could be, or it could be because it's got better. There's better wrestlers, there's better storytelling, there's better everything.
Well, this is literally what I was saying. Like, it helps that it's on free TV. We can't overlook that it's on free TV, which it does benefit them. But their product is inherently, it's a lot more compelling.
What is NXT
it's more
on?
interesting. NXT is on BT Sport.
Right.
So it's unless you've got Sky, unless you've got BT, unless you've got Virgin Media, you're not going to be able to see NXT. So yeah, it does help AEW a lot that they are on free TV, and I believe that was a strategic move by Tony Khan, was get them on free TV because it's not because of the ratings, it's because it's better brand awareness. Because not everybody in the UK has Sky or Virgin or BT, but everyone has terrestrial TV, not even terrestrial TV anymore, but Freeview TV. Everybody has access to that. You don't even need a TV to access Freeview. You can watch it online. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it on your tablet.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you don't have a TV and you were you were a wrestling fan back in the day, you might be interested to go online and watch AEW on the ITV hub.
Yeah, but you also have to appreciate the fact that he went after the biggest TV network in the UK.
Yeah,
He didn't go after any terrestrial or digital channel whatsoever that was free. He went for the biggest name he could possibly go for, and he got it. So that has to say something about like the business now of a Tony Khan, because to be able to do that straight out the bat with a brand new company that no one really saw coming 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is absolutely unbelievable.
It's definitely rooted in the family. He's learned from his dad, because his dad's been great with brand awareness and promoting and things like that. I mean, you got to look what he's done at Fulham. I mean, yeah, Fulham might not have the best success in terms of consistent Premier League football or out like that, but you look at Fulham's Instagram, and every time there's a post by Fulham, you've got the likes of Steve Austin liking it. You've got the likes of Jim Ross liking it. You know, you've got wrestlers that aren't even associated with AEW liking the post because they're aware of that brand. And yeah, that is linked to the wrestling and things like that. But Fulham are they're attracting better sponsorship deals because of the Khan family. You know, they're attracting better players because of the Khan family. And I know money comes into that, but at the end of the day, it's not always about the money. You've still got to plug your vision. And Tony Khan's dad, Shahid, he called Shahid Khan? Shahid Khan. Yeah. He's the one that's promoted that football club. And Tony Khan has input, but he's the one that's promoted that football club, that brand, to players that they probably shouldn't be signing. And it's the same thing with Tony Khan. He's promoted that company so incredibly well to get a deal on ITV. ITV, who at one point had zero interest in wrestling, they dropped WCW because they had no interest in wrestling anymore. They dropped World of Sport because he had no interest in wrestling anymore. And yeah, World of Sport came back, and that definitely helped, you know, in Tony Khan's favor. But you've still got to plug a company that's only in its foundations, that doesn't really have a roster at this point. It just has a few names. Doesn't have a TV slot in the US at this point. To get that deal, that is incredible promotion.
I think what you're saying there about Fulham, I think without Fulham, AEW wouldn't have got ITV. I think Khan having Fulham meant obviously contacts, and I think personally they just got put in, you know, oh, you know such and such a person, all right, set up a meeting and let's see what we can do. And I think fingers in pies helped. Let's put it that way.
It harkens back to what I was saying. It's just like everyone knows who Shahid Khan is now. Like, I can't remember his fucking first name for a moment, but everyone knows who he is, and he's a big business promoter. It does help to be his son,
yeah,
and to be linked with Fulham. It definitely does. But it's still a massive coup, no matter what way you look at it, because, you know, I think if World of Sport wasn't on ITV, they probably wouldn't have had any interest in wrestling at all. They might not have gone for it. I think World of Sport proved that there is a commodity there. There is a commodity for wrestling on Freeview TV and on ITV. And when AEW came along, I mean, World of Sport got shunned, didn't they? I mean, is it still a thing?
No.
I mean, it got shunned, but that definitely helped lay down the foundation for AEW to get on ITV.
It's probably just as well, considering what's been happening in the UK Brit Rest scene over the past few months.
Well, they haven't been around for a while, World of Sport.
Yeah, it's been at least a couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been about a year and a half now. I mean, SoCal Val, she were very much a part of that brand.
Yeah.
And if you ask her on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, does she still watch wrestling? Does she have any interest in getting back into wrestling? Her answer is no. She's got no interest. She isn't watching week to week. She's not interested in getting into the wrestling company, into wrestling again. She's happy doing what she's doing, but you get the impression that she's been burnt. She obviously got burnt by TNA because of how of the business remodel under Hogan and Bischoff. I mean, she ended up leaving not long after that. She wasn't really doing anything, and then she comes up. She moves to the UK. She gets married to a bloke, which is great. She gets married to a UK bloke. She's happy doing that. She gets on TV with World of Sport, and then all of a sudden it's like they've just down tools, and there's no indication of them coming back at all. No. It's very similar to Lucha Underground in America. The guy that was promoted is still saying, "Oh, there's a chance we'll come back," but he's been saying that for 3 years now. Mm-hmm. There's no sign of it coming back. So yeah, I think it goes beyond what's happened in the UK over the last few months. I just think it's a case of AEW's come in and people switched eyes. It's simple as that. And World of Sport were hopeful for a while of garnering that interest again, and they just haven't. They've just down tools, and they've done it really shoddily.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone that was associated with World of Sport have gone. They're doing something elsewhere. They're in NXT UK. They're not in the business no more, or they're in NXT themselves. Wade Barrett, because he was associated with it for a while, and
what are you doing commentary?
Yeah, he's doing commentary for NXT. He was doing commentary for NWA.
Yeah, and I think I read last week as well that I know Tyson T-Bone's in NXT. Who's the other one they've just signed over the past few weeks?
Rampage Brown,
that's it.
Yeah.
So they are swallowing up all that UK indie talent, aren't they? Which you kind of expect them. You're expecting them to do now, because it looks like, again, from the conversations that we've had about PCW and exclusivity deals in the King George's Hall in Blackburn. Gary, I don't know if Brian's seen that yet, but do you want to tell him about that screenshot you sent me earlier?
Oh, the screenshot I sent earlier. PCW, so Preston City Wrestling, meant to be having a show in Blackburn at some point. He booked King George's Hall.
Yeah,
that got put on ice because of the American wrestling show. However, in doing that, he actually contacted Blackburn Bid. And when he contacted Blackburn Bid, they pretty much sort of blanked him, right?
Fuck you hell.
So now he's put out this tweet saying, that it's the worst thing for businesses going, and he's no interest in ever having a show in Blackburn ever again.
He's essentially blackballed Blackburn.
Fuck you hell.
Which, in all fairness, me and Mark actually thought that he'd done that like 5 years ago, so I don't see what has actually changed.
But he's like kicking up a fuss, and he's like he's tagging in all this local media, local press, Lancashire Telegraph, and everything like that, trying to get some. He's clearly trying to get some exposure for his brand. Clearly, he wants to get in the newspaper for free publicity.
I mean, this went under the radar completely. But I mentioned this to Mark the other day, Gary, that it's not even Preston City Wrestling anymore. It's Professional Championship Wrestling. They actually did a rebrand this year.
Unreal.
Yeah, all right. That makes sense, because now he's looking at shows from Southport.
Yeah.
Professional, though, is just a bit.
I mean, it's not even a good fucking name. I know you want to keep the letters and all that, but Professional Championship Wrestling. It's like, you don't have to use the Preston name. but professional. You just sound like an ex-WCW startup company now.
That literally was
Yeah.
a WCW TV show, wasn't it? WCW Pro.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was, yes.
Yeah. It's just
fucking
so
hell.
unoriginal. But well, yeah, you know,
Wow.
for all whatever personal vendettas, you know, I'm gonna say that I have. I do hope he does well, to be fair, and I
Yeah.
hope that, you know, the wrestling scene does bounce back in the UK, because obviously we all like to go to a wrestling show, and if he can find somewhere where, you know, people aren't suplexing each other into chandeliers, then more power to you. Professional. Anyway, that's my dig on PCW, and Stephen Fodder, best wishes. Maybe we'll see you in the future, and maybe we won't, because you won't be coming to Blackburn, so who knows.
Hey, at least
Matt-
Scott Steiner's not stealing anyone's girlfriends.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah, there is that.